Thank you all very much for coming out today. My name is David Buchholz, and I'm a postdoc researcher at Cornell University. I'm also a co-founder of VIVA, and we specialize in making vaccines against emerging viral pathogens. As you're all aware, we're recently coming out of a pandemic. It's not the first we've had in our lifetime, and unfortunately, it's certainly not going to be the last. One of the major problems with combating pandemics is that viruses are constantly changing. What we have done is develop a flexible vaccine platform to enable broad protection to whole viral families. And we've done this for multiple viral families, including coronaviruses, which we should all be familiar with at this point, Henipaviruses, which are viruses that are currently outbreaking in places like Southeastern Asia and Australia, filoviruses, but for the purposes of today, I'm going to be focusing on some of our work involving influenza viruses. And we should all be very familiar with influenza viruses. We've likely all suffered from flu multiple times throughout our lives. There are about 1 billion annual infections, which account for up to 650,000 deaths every year. There are vaccines which are available. However, these are not overtly protective. The average effectiveness of the flu vaccine is about 40%. And last year, the effectiveness was about 14%. Aside from these seasonal influenza virus problems, influenza is a ticking time bomb. Influenza pandemics are not uncommon. In the last century, there have been 4 major influenza virus pandemics, including the flu pandemic of 1918, which is the most severe viral pandemic that we know of. During this time, it infected more than a third of the world's population and led to up to 100 million deaths. Importantly, there are no vaccines that can currently protect against pandemic influenza. One of the reasons for this is that current vaccines focus on the poorly conserved HA protein of flu. These give very good, robust immune responses, but they're very narrow in scope. They will protect you from the strain that you are vaccinated with, but they will not protect you from other strains, even if they're closely related. And there are many strains that circulate every year, and flu pandemics are even more divergent from that. The other major protein of flu, NA, or neuraminidase, is much more highly conserved and gives much broader immune responses. However, these effects are significantly masked by HA to the point where we get really no immune responses against neuraminidase. What we have done is take that neuraminidase protein from influenza and incorporate it on its own onto nanoparticles. So this removes the masking effect that HA provides. What our vaccine platform is a viral mimic. It tricks the immune response into thinking that it's recognizing a real virus, but without the safety concerns of presenting a real virus. We have vaccinated mice with this platform, and then we challenged those mice with 2 different viruses. One of these is from the same virus that the vaccine was derived from, and that's in blue. And one of these is from a different virus that the vaccine was derived from, highly divergent. And that's in green. And we've also challenged non-vaccinated mice, and that's highlighted in red. And as you can see, non-vaccinated mice quickly succumb to disease. However, both cases for the same virus and the highly divergent virus not only completely survived the challenge, but had no signs of illness, whether in weight loss or in clinical signs. This indicates that our vaccine platform is capable of providing broad protection to both things within the season, as well as reaching into pandemic territory. Overall, we can take and select viral proteins of our choosing and put them into our viral nanoparticle platform. And we can do this with not just one protein, but multiple proteins at the same time. So far, we've incorporated up to 5 different viral proteins simultaneously into single virion systems. And we've gotten protective immune responses to all of them across multiple families. This platform is also highly stable, with the virus particles and the proteins maintaining integrity at temperatures up to 37 degrees Celsius or 98 degrees Fahrenheit for multiple weeks at a time, without any loss of efficiency as a vaccine. And this highlights less reliance on a cold chain, which has been a major problem for vaccine delivery. The market opportunities for vaccines are very high. As of this year, the total vaccine market was about $82 billion. And a very large pool of that market is influenza, accounting for about $8 billion of that market as of this year, and up to more than $14 billion is predicted for 2030. Our team is uniquely positioned to be able to push this project forward with combined decades of experience in vaccine development, antigen selection, funding acquisition, and business management, as well as having experience in moving vaccines into human trials. So far, we have acquired about $1.5 million in funding pre-incorporation, and we're one of the few projects that DARPA has continued to fund from project into product. Our development plan right now is to finish incorporation and to acquire non-dilutive funding. And our goal for the next year is to vaccinate large animals with vaccines made in GMP laboratories to be able to get the data needed to move into human trials. With that, I would like to thank you again very much for being here, and I'll take any questions.
So is the intent for you guys to take this all the way through to market, or do you have a different view of what the exit and event for this company might be?
Right now, we're considering multiple things. We would love to take it all the way, but pushing through human trials is very difficult. It requires a lot of experience and funding. We have some experience with that in our team. However, our government's already been funding this, and we have corporations that have been looking very heavily into this as well. So we're considering multiple things.
So thank you for that presentation. If you had to predict now, which I know it's very hard to do, how long do you think it takes you to get from where you are today all the way through human clinical trials to potentially something that's marketable?
All the way through, it's going to take probably about 5 to 10 years.
So I have two very different questions.
Yeah.
First question is, is this a one-time vaccination, or is it a yearly vaccination? How does that work?
Our goal is for this not to be a yearly vaccination. We've shown that we can provide protection against multiple seasons of influenza for highly divergent strains. So this would be, we hope to be at least a 5-year vaccine, not a yearly, or possibly longer.
And so very different now. What is the IP landscape?
The IP landscape, so we have multiple patents. We have one on a multivalent technology that allows us to incorporate multiple proteins into this system, and the system itself is licensed as well. And we have the thermostability, so that's the ability of the vaccine to not require a cold chain. That's a separate patent.
And so you mentioned there's multiple paths here. If you decide to not go the full process of clinical trials, phase 1 through 4, right, before commercialization, have you had any discussions with commercial partners, pharma companies, biotech companies about what they would need to see to potentially take it over from you?
We have one set up with Pfizer actually next week. So I'll have more data for you next week.
The principal investigator
but yes,
Pfizer vaccine actually lives in our town in Skinny Atlas and Finger Lakes. But no, we should talk afterwards. That's Stephen Thomas.
Great. Thank you so much.
Great.